I'm so excited. Today's August 1st. First of all, can we just pause on that for a minute? Holy moly, it's August 1st in 2022. How did that even happen? Like, I think about that. We're like already halfway, well past halfway through the year. I digress. Anyway, today is the first day of the Every Bit Counts Challenge, started by Jessica at Three Rivers Homestead. This is the second year, I believe, I'm participating, and I loved it last year, that I was really excited to do it again this year. The whole premise is for every day of the month of August to put something up. What that means is either canning, freezing, dehydrating, fermenting, something from either your garden, a family member's garden that gifts you some food. Maybe it's from the farmer's market or a local farmer. Maybe it's just something that you find at the grocery store in abundance on sale. Put something up every day that allows you to enjoy that and use that during those winter months, especially during January and February when we do the Three Rivers Challenge. So today, the first day, I'm kicking it off because I have some beautiful eggplant that I grew on our homestead garden. And eggplant is one of my favorite things. I just love it. But it's a bit of a guilty pleasure because I love fried eggplant. I always have. I have memories of my mom doing this when I was little in our kitchen in Pennsylvania, and I'd help her bread it and she'd fry it, and most of the time we just eat it just like that. It was so good. So wonderful, happy memories with that. And that's what I want to do today. I am going to fry up, batter and fry up the slices of eggplant, except I'm not making eggplant parm tonight for dinner. However, that sounds delicious. I am going to then freeze my slices and then put them in the freezer. So I'm going to freeze them individually on a single layer, and then I'll put them in a Ziploc bag or maybe a freezer bag, like a vacuum seal freezer bag, to put in the freezer for later use. And so that way, this winter, when it's a really cold, blistery night and we're needing some good comfort food, I can pull out those frozen eggplant slices and make some delicious eggplant parm. It would be like a casserole eggplant parm, but it would come together beautifully. That's my goal. Now, I only have these 2 eggplants, so I'm not gonna have a whole lot of slices, but that's what I'm gonna do. So I'm gonna batter them up with, I think we'll put flour on it, egg, and then breadcrumbs, and then I'll fry it in my cast iron skillet, let it cool, and then I'll freeze it. But I'm excited to try that. I've never done this before, but I actually think it'll work well. So, a hiccup this morning in my plan is that this is all I have left of breadcrumbs. And I am really stubborn when it comes to going to the grocery store because I refuse to go spend money when it's not absolutely necessary. So I only had a little bit of my sourdough sandwich loaf left. I cut it up, chopped it up, and I have it in the oven right now at 200 degrees, just kind of drying out. And then I'm gonna run that through maybe my blender, my Vitamix, to really pulverize that and get some good breadcrumbs. So these are homemade breadcrumbs from homemade sourdough bread. I'll have more to add. I pray that is still enough. I actually don't know, but we will figure it out. If I need to do cornmeal or something, I'll do that. It'll be delicious no matter what. So I've got my 2 cast iron skillets over here on the stove, and I'm going to be frying in avocado oil. I just don't have the oil in it yet. I don't have the stove on yet. I find that when I start that process, if I'm not really, confident in my process prior, that might burn, right? So I just don't want to do that yet. It's almost like an assembly line. I'm going to first flour. I'm going to beat these up. This is 2 eggs that I'll then just kind of whip together. So flour, egg, breadcrumbs, and then I have a cutting board here with some racks, baking racks, and then I'm just going to set it on. And then once these are all done, then I will go put my oil in and heat it up and get the frying done. I'm slicing these into about 1/4 inch thick. I don't want it too thin that it kind of falls apart, right? But I like it when your eggplant parm is cooked and it's I like it kind of soft, like buttery, but not mushy. Okay, all of the eggplant is done. It took about 20 minutes, but these are the ones that are bigger, beautiful, and I'm gonna fry and freeze those. And then these down here are the ones that I'm going to enjoy today for lunch. I'm so excited. I did end up using 5 eggs, and I needed to add some cornmeal into my breadcrumbs. You can probably see the color difference here, just because I wasn't gonna have enough just breadcrumbs. So I still think it's gonna have the most delicious flavor. So I'm gonna get my oil in the pan and start frying. I have my burners on medium-high heat. I have it like at 6.5. So I'll flip them. I'm gonna put them on a plate with a paper towel. I'll sprinkle a little salt on one side and then keep going through the process. All the eggplant is done. That took about 10 minutes, and I've got 3 layers here of the most gorgeously fried eggplant. So I have them stacked. I'm probably just gonna, now that they're not as hot, probably just do this single layer, and I am literally just gonna let them cool on the counter like this, because I don't want to put them in the freezer yet. They are still pretty hot. You can see the different color variations though between the actual breadcrumbs and the mixture of the cornmeal and breadcrumbs. But they've all been salted and they are just gonna cool here. I will put them on a cookie sheet lined with parchment paper and put that in the freezer. And then once they are sufficiently individually frozen, I'll throw them in a freezer bag, like a freezer Ziploc bag, and save them for our Parmesan casserole, eggplant Parmesan casserole this winter. And so what I'll do is probably put some sauce down, like on a 9x11 casserole dish, and then layer with some cheese and maybe another layer. I could probably get 2 casseroles out of what I have here. So 2 separate meals. I'm excited about that. And then I got some over there that I can snack on throughout the day today and have for lunch. So day 1 of the challenge is complete. And be sure to hit subscribe because I'm going to keep you up to date for the whole month of August on what I'm putting away every day. But also when we do the challenge in January and February of eating everything we've put away. I can't wait to make this, and you're going to want to see it. I'm so excited to eat this. Thanks for joining me on day 1. I'll see you on day 2. Day 2 of the Every Bit Counts challenge. I am loaded up with tomatoes. I've got at least 3 of these bowls. Now these are, I don't know the difference really between the grape and the cherry tomatoes. I don't really know what size is what, but these are significantly bigger than like some of the smaller little cherry tomatoes. I believe the variety that I'm growing, and these are from Baker Creek, is the, and I'm gonna butcher it, so just bear with me, Borghese. That's not the part I was gonna butcher. I skipped that part. It's like Principal de Borghese. whatever. But they are like a cherry kind of variety. They're supposedly really good for sauce. They're a determinate variety. And I've just noticed that not only are they prolific, like I'm getting a lot of tomatoes, but they're a really healthy and hardy looking plant. Like they're doing really well out on the homestead garden. I have a lot of tomatoes. And so for some of my paste tomatoes, I'm freezing and then I'll make sauce this winter. But what I really want in my pantry repertoire is some sun-dried tomatoes in oil. And so I have a couple of jars of tomatoes that I roasted like in a glass casserole dish in the oven and then put them in some oil with some herbs and garlic. But it's not quite the same texture or consistency. Like I really want these dehydrated down to like that flat, almost leathery kind of texture, and then pack them in oil, and I'll have to keep them in the refrigerator. They can't go in the pantry, but they'll be really good in some pastas and sauces and even maybe some dips, right? Like just throughout the rest of the year. So that is what I want to do, and I'm going to attempt to do today. And I'm going to be doing that with my dehydrator. That was meant to happen. So the dehydrator's back there. I've got 3 trays here. I've been going back and forth on this if I want to like cut them in half, which I think I actually have to, just to get this process going a lot faster. Cut them in half and then place them on the dehydrator racks and in the dehydrator at a very low temp, but it will go for a long time to really kind of get them to that leathery consistency. So I tried this last year, which is why you're seeing so much kind of hesitation with what I'm doing. So this is last year's tomatoes. Well, first of all, you can hear that. They are hard. Like I dehydrated them and they were little cherry tomatoes that I, cut in half and dehydrated on our trays. And the whole goal was to do exactly what I want to do today. But I think I dehydrated them way too long. So then I was like, okay, well, I'll soak some in a really good olive oil and they'll soften up and they'll get to that really good leather texture. Well, here you go, listen. Nope, still hard as a rock in the oil, but I can't bear to throw this away. I cannot bring myself to dump this or throw it away. It'll have to go into something. Yep, well, maracas with my way over dried tomatoes. So I don't want that to happen this year. And so I need to make sure I'm checking the dehydrator, right, and not drying them to the point of no return. So all I'm gonna do is start, picking any green stems off, slicing them in half, throwing them on the dehydrator sheet in the dehydrator, and I'll let you know at what point I pull them out and when they look good. So I have 2.5 trays worth full. I am going to start the dehydrator. I have it set on 125 degrees and I'm gonna go for about 8 hours and see how we go from there. Good morning. It is the morning of August 3rd, day 3 in the Every Bit Counts challenge. I wanted to kind of update you on my tomatoes. So remember I had 2.5 trays. This tray, the tomatoes were a little bit smaller. And so I've been checking them and I think we're at the right consistency. And I'll show you that a little bit more close up in a minute. But I wanted to kind of update you. So I kept it at 125 degrees. I believe that's what I had mentioned yesterday. I kept it at that and I had it going for probably about 7 or 8 hours. And then before I went to bed, I just shut it off. I didn't want to keep it going all night because I knew that they would get past the point of no return again and be too dry. So then when I woke up this morning, I put it on and it's been on for maybe 2 hours. So I would say between 9 and 10 hours total is what I went at for 125 degrees. Now, if you don't have a dehydrator, don't fret. You can still do this method. it just actually might be a little bit faster for you. But you're gonna wanna do it in your oven with like parchment lined sheet pan, and do it in your oven on your lowest setting, which is usually around 200 degrees. So I would put it in at 200 and then check it after maybe an hour, 2 hours, right? Just kind of keep checking it on an hour interval until you get it where you want it, but you don't have to have a dehydrator to do this. So I'm gonna pull the other 2 trays out, bring them over to the island here, and show you kind of what I was looking for as far as the texture, and then we'll pack them into some jars. Okay, hopefully you can see that a little bit better, but you can see how they've really tried to like shrivel up a little bit on the edges, but if you turn it over, it's still pretty soft. There's nothing really hard. Some of these like smaller ones are a little bit harder on this other tray, but this is exactly the kind of consistency and texture that I think I want. So I am going to start packing these in some jars. I've got a variety of sizes. I feel like the smaller the jar, the better, right? Because when you buy sun-dried tomatoes in the store, they're not even in really large jars. You don't need a lot, usually within one recipe. And I don't want to pack them in too tight. Sun-dried tomatoes in the store can be pretty pricey, so I'm excited to see how these come out. I already feel so much more optimistic with just kind of feeling the texture as they are right now. I think I'm going to have one large jar for the rest of these. All right, so I've got 5 smaller jars and 1 pint. I'm going to crush some garlic to put in each. These are pretty big cloves, so I'm actually not going to put a whole clove in each. I am going to put just a little bit of salt, Redmond real salt, in each jar. And I'm going to do just a little bit of dried basil from our garden as well in each. We're going to now top it with the olive oil, and I am using Jovial brand. This is 100% organic, first cold pressed, extra virgin olive oil from Italy. The Jovial brand is a fantastic brand, fantastic company, and it's where we get a lot of our einkorn grain and einkorn flour from as well. I'm going to leave about a 1-inch headspace. These will be going in the refrigerator. There's nothing canned here. I would not recommend they be shelf stable. While the oil alone is shelf stable, I'm not willing to take any chances from the tomatoes and the garlic, right? Because they haven't been processed in a way that would make them shelf stable. So you do what you want and what you feel is right for your family. I am going to keep these in the refrigerator until I need them. All right, day 2 is in the books. Again, look how beautiful this is. So in the refrigerator these go. I'm really excited about this. All right, but as I told you, it's the morning of day 3, August 3rd. So we've got to get going on day 3. I have one 25-pound box. You're gonna be like, really? Of peach truck peaches left. Yes, really. I think I bought too many peaches. We've got 1 box left here. Ooh. Aw, we got a dead daddy longlegger in here. These have been in the refrigerator in our garage. Now, they don't look bad by any means, and they're not mushy. They have actually held up in the refrigerator fairly well. There's a few that, you know, are looking a little wrinkly, need a little love, but are probably still fine. So we're gonna try and get all of these processed today. I still have probably 4 or 5 gallon bags of frozen peaches still in our freezer from the peach truck. And they've been great. My kids snack on frozen peaches, and I'll use that to make a peach cobbler in the winter. But what I'm going to be doing with most of these is slicing and dehydrating. And I did some of that last month with the peach truck peaches, but I think I had 2 maybe half gallon jars, mason jars, and one is already gone because I'm using them for school snacks now. So I am going to slice and get these in the dehydrator. So that puppy's been working overtime, and it will continue to. But that's what we're gonna do for day number 3 on the Every Bit Counts challenge. I will probably save some of the really good looking ones for fresh eating still. Goodness, this one is still quite hard. All right, so what I do is I basically just slice down the middle to hopefully get the pit out nice and easily. Okay, change of plan. I have cut into 2 peaches and they're not quite ready. What I mean by that is they need to sit out in room temperature for at least, I would say, 24 hours overnight. And the peach truck, by the way, recommends that when you receive your peaches, right, because they've been held in cold temperatures during transit, to keep them out on the counter, bring them up to room temp until they get to that perfect kind of softness that you want in a really ripe peach. And actually a handful of these more than a handful, are still really, really firm. So I am going to scrap the peach idea today. I don't want to ruin these, right? I don't want to do this just for the sake of doing it. So I'm going to let these sit overnight and maybe tackle these either tomorrow or the next day. So we need to do something else for day 3. Okay, I have figured out what I'm going to do, because again, I don't want to do something just to do it. I want it to be worthwhile. I had these green beans in our refrigerator, and I picked these probably 2 days ago. And it's in my mind, a decent amount. For those of you that grow 50 green bean plants, this is nothing. This is a snack. But for us, that's a pretty good deal because we didn't have much success this year with green beans. This is my second planting of them. And then I went out to the garden and I got some more things. I got the last of the blackberries, some more cherry tomatoes, and some more green beans. I don't have enough to make like a full meal's worth, right? I don't even have enough to probably can any, because it would be 1 jar, and you need more than 1 jar really to start canning. So what I'm gonna do is ferment. I'm gonna ferment some dilly beans, just 1 pint of dilly beans, but hey, it works. It's gonna be useful for us. We love them. So I am first gonna get all of this washed because there's a couple of little ants in here, and then we'll start with fermenting our beans. All right, we got all our ingredients here to get started. I've got my green beans, my salt, I've got dill seed, I've got a garlic clove, I've got some dried red hot peppers from last year's garden. I'm just gonna put 1 in to add a little heat. So let's begin the fermenting process. Now, fermenting is not hard. It's a little intimidating sometimes to people, but it doesn't have to be. I like to use the measurement of the ratio of 3 tablespoons salt to 1 quart water. I find that I have the most success with that. Sometimes when I go down in the salt, I start seeing other things grow, other kinds of molds grow, right? When you have 3 tablespoons salt to 1 quart water, I haven't had any issues. So I am doing a pint jar today though, right? So I'm having that. I'm gonna do 1.5 tablespoons of salt. Now, the type of salt and the type of water matter. I have another pint jar that I just filled with filtered water from our refrigerator. So you do not want to use tap water. You can use distilled, you can use spring, you can use filtered, you can use well water, right? It's just no tap water because the chlorine in tap water kills just about everything, and so you won't have a really good fermented product. So I just filled another pint jar with filtered water so that I can mix my salt in there, let it dissolve. while we're filling this one up with our other goodies. Now, salt. I'm using Redmond real salt. You've heard me talk about this. There's a code down below for 15% off your order, but Redmond real salt truly is the best salt. And it's mined right here in the United States, out in Utah, and it's full of minerals, right? It's a mineral rich salt. It's not an iodized salt. So you want to use Redmond real salt or a sea salt, but no iodized. No kosher salt, right? No table salt. You've got to use the good stuff. All right, this may look a little kludgy and clustery here, but bear with me. So I am crushing 1 clove of garlic and throwing that in. This is the pint jar I'm filling. Okay, actually, before I go down that road, let's get our salt dissolved. So I've got my 1 pint of filtered water. I'm gonna do 1.5 tablespoons Redmond real salt. I'm gonna put a lid on and just shake that. I wanna get that salt dissolved as much as possible. All right, back here. I'm gonna throw in, let's do 2. 3. 3 of those hot peppers. I'm gonna add about half a teaspoon of dill seed. Now, if you have fresh dill from your garden or dill flowers, they work awesomely too. All right, now the trick is you wanna get your green beans or whatever it is you're fermenting in your jars. And so, you know, you might wanna trim some of these ends off because some of them might be a little bit taller. I'm just gonna do a quick little chop here. You want everything to sit below the level of the salt brine, right? When everything is below the salt brine level, it prevents anything from growing. And the reason I put the pepper, garlic, and dill seed on the bottom is because eventually it will come to the top, right? But having it on the bottom and having your whatever it is you're fermenting, by the way, you could do this same exact thing with cucumbers for pickles. But by doing that, it helps at least minimize the amount of floatage up top. Okay. So not all of them are the same height. That's okay. Over time, as they soften in the brine, they will just go down even further. Guys, I have 2 of the smallest cucumbers from the garden also. I am gonna throw these in, because I am done making regular pickles for the season. But these could go perfectly in here to be fermented. And it will help tighten this up. All right, that's pretty tight now. I'm not even gonna have to put my weight on it yet. I'm gonna have to wait a couple of days until everything softens up before I even put the weight on. All right, so we're gonna pour our brine in. And so I will check this in a day or two to see if I need to get my weight on, right, as everything softens up. So I put my lid on. Within the airlock system, this basically allows the gas to escape, but no other air to go in. And so I put a little water in there, the top, the lid, and then that goes right there. It's so easy. So this will sit on the counter for probably about a week. But again, I am gonna be checking it, and I'll show you as I check it, right? As I see changes, I'll make sure to take you along with it, since I'll be filming every day anyway for the challenge. But day 3 of the Every Bit Counts challenge is in the books. So that concludes this video, right, for the first 3 days of the challenge. Don't forget to follow the hashtag #EveryBitCountsChallenge and see what all of the other homesteaders and gardeners and like-minded folks are doing and putting up. Thanks for joining. Stay healthy, stay well. I'll see you next time.